Hi, I'm Jeannie Ralston. I'm the co-founder of Next Tribe, and I want to welcome everyone to our Thursday night event where we talk to fascinating women. And today we're talking to Pamela Redmond, and man, she's got so much to talk about. First of all, she's written so many books. I can't even name them, novels, nonfiction, but she's probably best known for writing the novel Younger, which became the beloved TV series of the same name. And now she's followed it up with a novel called Older, appropriately. I love that. Makes so much sense. What a better way to handle that sequel thing. And the funny thing you might not know about Pam is that she's also a baby name expert. When I first was learning about Pam, I couldn't believe that it was the same person. I thought there must be two Pamela Redmond, because I thought, she can't do all of this, the baby name and all the writing, but she does. Somehow she does it. So welcome, Pam. How are
Great
you?
to be here, Jeannie.
Well, thank you so much for coming. And I should point out that Pam spoke for us at a big Out Loud event. We call our live event series Out Loud. And she spoke at the one we did in LA, and it was just fabulous. You told the story behind the writing of Younger, why you wrote it, and it was fascinating, and it people were drawn in, and a lot of high energy in that place, and it was just fun to see you there and have you add to that energy. But I wanted to tell people that how we're going to do this is that Pam and I are going to speak. We're going to talk about her books plural, and the TV show, and then we're going to open up for questions. And you're welcome to write your questions in the chat, and then when it's time, I'll call on you, and you can ask for yourself, so that I like it to be more interactive that way. So we're going to start with Pam. You're going to read a little something for the new book, Older. You see the part of the cover behind me?
I think it could have been bigger, couldn't it?
Yeah, right. So if you could start with reading something from your book, and then we can go from there.
All right, great. Hey, everybody. Thanks for being here and spending your evening or afternoon with me. I'm in LA, so it's middle of the afternoon here, but it's a good time of day. So Older, this is an advanced copy, but it looks the same in real life, just a little bit prettier. I'm guessing that most of you know the television show Younger, and so you're familiar with some of the characters. And when I decided to write a sequel, it was challenging because not all of the characters on the television show are characters that I invented. So Liza is my character, Maggie is my character, Kelsey, Josh, and Liza's daughter, his name is Caitlin. But Charles, unfortunately, is not my character. And the Charles and Josh triangle is basically, besides Liza's secret, that's really the base of the show, and what everyone's waiting to see, including me, waiting to see how they play that out in the final season, which should have been shot by now. Usually, it was supposed to have been shot in New York. They usually shoot March to June, and they got COVIDed out. Yeah. So the book was supposed to come out at the end of the show, and now it came out, and the show hasn't ended yet. So I couldn't really continue the story that had been set up by the show. I really had to reinvent that story. And so the way I handled that was to skip ahead 5 years from the end of my book. So Liza's now about to turn 50. At the end of Younger, the novel, Liza becomes a novelist, which is what she's always wanted to do. And so at the beginning of Older, Liza's been living on an island in Maine for 2 years, writing a novel that's based on her time pretending to be younger. And the novel is called Younger. And
let's get really meta.
It's very meta. It's very meta. And Kelsey aka Hilary Duff, has left New York and become a Hollywood TV producer, and she wants to make a television show out of Liza's book, Younger. So the first thing I want to read is when Liza first gets to LA. And I live in LA now. I'm an Easterner, but I only moved here 5 years ago, so it's a very stranger and a strange land experience. And I wanted to write about, you know, LA through the eyes of a newcomer, which is always pretty hilarious. So this is Liza meeting the actress Stella Power, who is the person who has optioned Younger and plans to star in the show. And Stella Power is married to a very rich head of a studio. She has 6 children. She lives in this like amazing house on the edge of the Pacific in Malibu. And she has, she's invited Liza and Kelsey to come over to talk about the movie. Okay. 2 days later, I found myself sitting on a vast white marble patio overlooking the Pacific Ocean, staring into the blue, blue eyes of the actress Stella Power. Stella still looked amazingly like her poster girl self. All I could think about, smiling and nodding at her as if this were a normal conversation, was that her hair was so thick. "How do you get your hair like that?" I blurted. She laughed, exactly like Barbie might laugh if she could. "Easy compared with sitting around all day being a creative genius." She squeezed my hand. I could just make out on the other side of her, Kelsey rolling her eyes. "I think the hair is harder," I said, utterly fascinated. You see, I have a little obsession with hair, with my hair getting thin at this point in my life. My own hair used to be effortlessly thick and flowing, but lately had been getting so thin I was worried I'd inherited my dad's baldness gene. I'd never been much of a whiz at the beautifying arts, which had been a distinct disadvantage when I was trying to look 15 years younger every day. "Oh, well, some of it's extensions," she said, reaching up and fiddling around as if she was trying to tease out a knit, and instead removed a huge hank of hair. I nearly screamed. "And then I had stem cells injected into my scalp to stimulate hair growth. It's amazing." I told Stella I'd never heard of such a thing. "It's still experimental," she said, "but Barry is a big donor to the medical school, so I got into a clinical trial. The really beauty thing is that they get the stem cells from your fat, so you get a little lipo in the bargain." I told Stella that I couldn't imagine where they found any fat on her body. "Stop, I'm like 18% body fat," Stella said. "You look amazing," I told her sincerely. "You really do look 26. As someone who knew from the inside out how difficult it was to achieve this, I was in awe. "Good surgery," she responded, as if that were as natural as good diet or good genes. "You mean plastic surgery?" I said. "What else?" said Stella. "I've already had my whole face done once and my neck done twice. Nose, of course. Pussy, of course, after pushing out all those kids. Boobs, so then I had them undone because Barry thought they were too big." "That must have hurt," I said. That's the end of that part.
Oh my! I wanted, of course, the first question I have is, okay, was that based on a real conversation you had in an LA home overlooking some beautiful view?
It was based on a real conversation I had, and I have been in an LA home with such kind of view, but not at the same time. They're different people. But I've never forgotten having your stem cells injected into your scalp. I mean, like hundreds of times.
Okay, so that part is real. I did not know that.
That is real. And it's like the person who told me said, just like Stella, like, "Oh, it was the best thing I ever did. You have to do it."
You have to do it. It costs like $50,000 or whatever.
Exactly.
Oh my.
Would you like me to read more, or would you like to start
Well,
talking?
let's talk a little bit, and then read some more, because there's so many great scenes and so many great lines. That's what I love about it. You just fall into it, and you feel like you're with your friend Liza, you know, and Kelsey, and when they're talking, you're like, just like, it just feels like you're with your girlfriends talking. The whole part about, oh, of course, the pussy, you know, pushing. I'm like, yeah, that's how we would talk. So, I mean, you know, that's how it is. So, well, so you told at the event, you told us a little bit about how you came up with the idea to write younger. If you want to talk a little bit about that, and then the message that you kind of were thinking about when you were writing younger, and then we'll go. I want to talk about the sequel. Then we'll talk about older. So,
Yeah. I got the idea for younger when I was reading an issue of Vogue, and there was a story in there about extreme plastic surgery. And it basically said, you know, you could go to, somehow I imagine in my memory that the place you would go to get this extreme plastic surgery was in Brazil or Uruguay. In the jungle, I don't know, you had to go in there, and when you came out, you were a totally different person, or you could be anyone you wanted to be when you came out. And I thought, you know, who would want to do that? And I was imagining a woman in her 40s who felt like she hadn't done with her youth what she wanted to do, that it had passed by and she wanted another chance at it. And then I thought about that a little bit, and I thought I didn't really want to write about that woman who's like Stella, maybe. You know, I didn't really want to write about that woman who just, you know, the only thing she had going for her was the way she looked, and I didn't really want to write about plastic surgery. And then for a while, I thought about doing it as a sort of a magical book, like she makes a wish and the fairy godmother comes. You know, I'm a big fairy tale fan, and she becomes younger. And then my friend, Christina Baker Klein, who's also a novelist, said, why don't you have her just fake it? And that really resonated, because I was at the time, I guess I was around 50, but I had a lot of friends in their 40s who'd had, you know, who still could pass for 26 or 28 or 32, and had had a couple of funny experiences of people assuming they were younger. So that is really the genesis of how that book, where I got the idea for that book.
and what were you trying? What kind of? I mean, I know it's a fun story, but was there a message you were trying to get across too? Do you think?
Yeah, the book, more than the show, is really concerned a lot with work versus motherhood. And, you know, Liza is somebody who made the choice, as many women do, maybe some of you, certainly a lot of my friends, to stop working and raise her daughter. And then her daughter graduates and goes off, and she's 44 in the book, and she wants to go back to her career, and she can't get back in. You know, no one will hire her. She, the last job she had was, you know, as a junior person, and they say she's too, you know, they don't come right out and say it, but too old to be an assistant. So she's blocked from that. And meanwhile, her friend Maggie, who in the book, that one of the conceits of the book is that they have the same birthday. They've been friends since childhood. They have the same birthday. They're exactly the same age. And Maggie at 44, she's been an artist. She's been all about her career. And suddenly she has that like, oh, I forgot to have kids moment. Like, I think I want to do this after all, before it's too late. And certainly, you know, I had that experience in my mid-40s where you feel like, you know, if you're going to have a baby, certainly it's like the midnight bell is tolling. And at the same time, a lot of my friends who'd stayed home with their kids, you know, they always assumed they'd go back at some point. And it just, that world was really, you know, close to them, but at the same time very foreign. You know, it had become like they didn't have any contacts, maybe a lot of their technical skills You know, certainly, I mean, I own a website now, but when I started the website, it's like, I didn't know how to do anything. I didn't know how to download a picture. You know, I was really, really ignorant, and that's daunting. So that really interested me. And so Younger, the book is a lot about, you know, making the other choice. And when I thought about what choice would I make if I could go back to my 20s, I thought, you know, I'd always wanted to be a novelist. And I thought, you know, I'd go back and take that part of my career more seriously. I'd be more confident. I'd be more ambitious, and I would go after what I wanted sooner rather than getting discouraged so easily, or, you know, doing something. I mean, everybody has to do stuff for the money, but, you know, just kind of keep that star in sight a little more.
But it's kind of like, I know that people write younger, you know, letters to your younger self and that, but you wrote like almost a whole novel, kind of, you know, like what I would do. I mean, it's really interesting how you kind of took that idea and developed it into something that's so relatable. And I'm sure a lot of women who've read it talk about that, you know, feeling that, you know, if I could have gone back, you know, what would I have done? Mm-hmm. And I would have probably had more sex. So
yeah, well, Liza does that.
Yes, she does. Jesus, yeah. So what's interesting about, so you write this book, and then 10 years that passed before the TV show, or
yes.
So how was the book received, you know, and did you think it had its moment, or you know, how did you deal with that time gap?
Well, you know, the book came out, it did all right, but it wasn't a huge bestseller. I always thought that it would be a great property in Hollywood because, you know, actresses over 40 always say there aren't enough good roles. And I thought, all right, this is a role where a woman it's a very challenging acting role. It's very complex, but at the same time, you get to look amazing. So it's totally appealing. So it did get optioned very quickly by a producer named Deborah Martin Chase. Then that fell out of option. Somebody else picked it up, somebody else. It went through 4 different people over those 10 years. And it got to the point where I just, you know, I thought no one was ever going to actually make it. So when I heard that Darren Star wanted to option it, you know, and I was a huge Sex and the City fan, and I'm like, wow, you know, but I didn't believe anything would happen. So I just thought, okay, that's cool, but, you know, I didn't think it would turn into anything.
And how much involvement did you have then? I mean, is that why I forget, you probably told me this before, but is that why you went to LA?
Not really. You know, they keep the rights issues pretty separate because it gets very muddy if the author gets involved. When the producer or the show creator buys the property, they buy the right to do whatever they want with your characters, with the whole milieu, and it makes them very nervous to have the author in there saying like, oh no, don't change her name. Oh no, you know, right. It's like, no, I get to do what I want now. And so, you know, Darren Star is a very nice person who's got a wonderful team and has always welcomed me to the set or to the writer's room, but I haven't really been involved in creating the show. I got divorced after a 33-year marriage. Sort of lived out my own Liza fantasy maybe, or understood a little bit why I wanted to write that book. And when I thought of what I wanted, I thought the main thing was that I wanted a big change. And one of my kids had already moved to LA. My other son had just left college for like the 4th time, and he's like, yeah, I'll go with you. So that felt easy, and it was easy in some ways and very difficult in many other ways.
And so when was that? How long has it been since the divorce and the move?
That's about 5.5 years ago now. So it's at the point where, I don't know how many of you have made a big move later in life, but the pool of possible friends like keeps shrinking over time. Everybody's married, everybody has their friends. It's kind of like it's kind of like trying to go back to work after taking a long gap, and people don't necessarily want to scoot over. They're like, why should I make room for you? So that was challenging.
Well, and that's actually, just to put in a plug for Next Tribe, that's kind of the idea that once we get enough members in a city, we can help people facilitate as members. So, and we're getting there. I mean, our membership's growing, membership is different than just reading the thing. So we're working on it. But no, it is really, really hard, and it's great for you to that's a great inspiration. I want to remind you guys, if you have questions, to write them in chat, and then I can call on you when we finish, when Pam and I finish just chatting a bit. But I wonder if, with the changes they did make, were there some changes you were like, what was the change that you thought most, oh, I wish I'd had that in the novel, or, ooh, that's a really good change? Was there any?
Oh, Charles.
Oh, Charles, like, the love triangle kind of thing.
Yeah, Charles was brilliant. And I thought about having an age-appropriate love interest for her, but I guess I wasn't so interested in writing a romance. For me, the issues of female friendship and motherhood and work were more interesting than a romance. But in terms of TV, I think it was amazing. And Peter Herman, who plays Charles, is so fantastic. And so when I was conceiving of the idea for Older, I'm like, dang, I want Charles. What am I going to do about Charles? And so part of the idea of having, this TV show within the book, within the TV show, was, okay, so the actor who plays a character who's like Charles becomes her love interest.
Yeah.
So Josh
So that's why I was going to ask, how hard, when you were conceiving of a kind of Older, it seems like it would be really hard, like knowing, okay, am I basing it off the the novel I wrote, or the TV show? The TV show's gone farther than the book did, right? So
way farther, yeah.
Yeah. So can you describe that kind of, like, when you were charting the book, or the plot and all that? How did you run into knots sometimes?
No, that wasn't difficult, because in a way the conceit of the book is that the television show, as you all know it, I'm assuming, hasn't happened yet.
Oh, okay.
And it's based on Liza's life, but it isn't Liza's life. So she has her life, which isn't the same as what happened in the TV show.
Okay.
So in Younger, the book, instead of Charles, there was a character, Mrs. Whitney. I don't know whether you ever knew Ruth Whitney.
Oh, yes, of course. Wow.
Yeah, she was just amazing. In fact, I saw that Edie Locke just died, who was the editor of Mademoiselle and was a famous editor. She just died like yesterday. And Ruth was this really inspirational editor for a whole generation of younger editors. So my character, who was the head of the publishing company, was this older woman who was married, who was based on Ruth. And because I was writing about her, I am writing about women and age, and within that theme, how that plays out. And so Mrs. Whitney is this older woman who started this company when women may not have worked at all, and is still, successful and totally in control and an icon in the industry. And so Liza really looks up to her, and it's kind of like that's who I want to be when I'm older, you know? I've always been looking for those figures. But when they go to Hollywood and they get Stella with her scalp injections, she wants to have an older man in the show because she's afraid if she's with a younger man that he'll be prettier than her. So she talks them or insists that they use this ex-boyfriend of hers who's this famous actor named Hugo Fielding, who's this British, you know, Romeo type.
And is it based on anyone? Is it?
Well, no one real, but I you know, I was thinking of like Hugh Grant. And,
that's what I was wondering if it was Hugh Grant.
Oh, I mean, I love Hugh Grant.
I do.
And he's such a great actor. I mean, he's played some incredible roles in recent years, and I would love to see him do that. He would be great in that part, wouldn't he be? Like,
yeah, oh God, yes, yes. So, so describe to then some of the themes that you wanted to explore in older. Is it things that you felt like you didn't get to talk about in younger, and how that came into it?
You know, younger in a way is about age and ageism and women, except it's kind of a cheat because the way she deals with ageism is to pass as not old. You know, which of course creates a problem of its own, you know, where she's pretending to be someone she isn't. And so in older, you know, that's not even a question. I mean, she doesn't want to pretend to be younger anymore, but she couldn't get away with it even if she did want to. So she has no choice now but to face the world as her 50-year-old self, you know, just as we do, you know, most people who haven't had, you know, 3 neck lifts,
yeah,
or maybe even if you have, you know, you face the world as yourself, and you have to deal with how people respond to you in terms of your age, in terms of your gender. I mean, I was thinking today, it's like women get so screwed because when they're younger, it's like, you know, they might have to face sexism and be marginalized for that reason. And then when they get older, it's like sexism just kind of morphs into ageism.
yeah, yeah. And sometimes they come together, the two of them.
Like, yeah, we'll get all that out of the way at once. Although I find myself, I mean, I find it kind of liberating not to be playing by the rules anymore, you know, not to be worried about being the prettiest girl in the room or not being the prettiest girl in the room or being sexualized or judged, which obviously is like an enormous problem for women in Hollywood, certainly, you know, Harvey Weinstein and everything else. That was never my reality, but it's kind of good to just have all that off the table.
Yeah. And what I like in older is that she is motivated to make very clear choices. I think that's about right. It's like, what does she want right now? And kind of that feeling like I can't put it off. I mean, I think that when we're younger, we might feel like, okay, I'll get to that. But is that something that you feel yourself?
I do. And, you know, my mother died when she was 61. And when I turned 61, that was when I left my husband. And because my mother got sick in her 40s and I saw her, you know, being ill and really not having a life as she got older, I've always heard that ticking clock. Felt this urgency of, you know, you have to do what you want to do now. But certainly when I reached that age, it was more powerful than I had guessed it would be. And I really then felt like, you know, I had this opportunity to live this life that my mother didn't get. And certainly as a writer, I had a lot of freedom and a lot of power that a lot of women don't have when you get to your 60s. You know, my career was in my control. And if nothing happened. I had only myself to blame, not that the world doesn't do plenty to marginalize everybody. But I still have a lot more power over my career than someone who works for a company who's going to get fired when they're 55 or 60.
Right, yeah. So how do you, what do you think you'd like readers to feel when they finish this? When we're talking about readers, we're talking about women our age readers, like what do you want other women your age to feel when they finish it?
That's a great question. For a while I did this thing. I think I heard someone speak who said that at the beginning of every day, you should write down how you want to feel at the end of the day. And for a while I did that, and it was very, very powerful. It was obviously, if you do it first thing in the morning, it's kind of informed by what kind of day you had before and what you have ahead of you, but just thinking like, I want to feel, organized, or I want to feel, joyful, or some, whatever, kind of really helped that to happen, having that focus. So I haven't thought it that way about my books, how I want people to feel. I know some, one of Liza's big dilemmas in this book is that her daughter is having a baby, and her daughter wants to go back to work and wants her to be the caregiver for the child. And she's very torn about that. I have a little granddaughter who I love more than anything. And, my daughter's never asked me to be the babysitter, but I've fantasized about it, and I certainly have friends who do that. And, I guess I think that I would like that to be a way that women can work through that really difficult emotional problem, because I think there hasn't been very much written about that.
About being there for your children when they have their kids. Yeah.
Right, adult kids, grandchildren, and what do you owe yourself? Are you allowed to be selfish? I think we all know that this generation is very different from the previous one. All my friends say like, oh, I left home as soon as I could. I would never have gone back and lived with my parents. And now, especially in the age of COVID, all the extended families are together. And my friends who are writers, it's like, it's great, but oh my God, when you were asking me, how do I do everything? It's like, I don't have any little kids. It's after you've been a mother of 3 little kids and kind of survived that, it's like, no, every day is like 48 hours long. It's right?
Well, maybe even 72 hours during COVID, right? Extra. Yeah, I want to remind everyone to write I know you've got questions about Younger, the TV show, and the book and everything. So please write them. And Amy, can you have a question? Can you unmute yourself and ask?
Hey, Jeannie. Hey, Pam. It's great to be here with you all. I have so many questions.
Oh, good.
I wrote 2 questions and then I came up with a better question. And my better question is this. Do you think as women that it's just fundamentally necessary for us to lie about who we are, no matter where we are in life?
That is really a big, heavy question, isn't it?
No pressure.
It's funny because I put makeup on today, which is a very unusual occurrence. And so, there's something fun, and I color my hair, and, I'm like, you're not seeing me from the waist down. So there's some, there's always some fundamental hiding. I think we're certainly encouraged by society to hide who we really are. Yeah, that's a really good question and a really good point. I think that's true, that there is a lot of hiding. I have a friend who's kind of into radical honesty. She just always is super honest and says what she feels and wants to talk about it. And
is that a good thing? Is it a good thing?
I'm trying to get on board with it. you know? It's refreshing. I do think, like, as I've gotten older, I've been more honest. Also, maybe at the same time, more diplomatic.
Ah, yeah. Honesty maybe like burnished with a little wisdom and gravitas and class.
Right. Saying it in a way that people can hear. People can't always hear it if you just blurt it out, you know?
Yeah. Thanks.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. Well, it's a good point. Also, and I'm thinking if, if there was any I guess the consequences for Liza of pretending that she was younger is she did get, I mean, even this is the beginning, she got trapped and with her lies. But she also got a really hot guy. So I'm saying, maybe is that an encouragement to pretend like we're younger? You can get a hot young guy. But the downside is that you aren't true. I think maybe as we get older, we can be more honest about ourselves. Maybe that's part of what you're saying. I mean, I think that, and maybe and you're honest, or maybe we just don't. We can be more honest with others because we don't care as much. We don't seek their approval as much.
Yeah, I think that's true, and I think it feels worse to, it feels worse to fake or lie or be valued by something that isn't real.
Right. Yeah. Because I did find the Stella character just really sad. In this, but which is she kind of part of her reminded me of Farrah Fawcett, I guess, and the part like Kate Capshaw. I mean, I'm sorry. So it was kind of, I was trying to figure out how her inspiration, but I guess, can you look anywhere?
I was thinking of Kate Capshaw, definitely, a younger Kate Capshaw, who I met. I was an editor at Glamour in the 80s, and I met her, when she was starting out as an actress.
Oh, really?
Spielberg, and, and she definitely had a big life, if not a big career.
Right.
And that's kind of fascinating to me. It's like, I guess I would want to say to her, was that enough?
Right.
Was that a fair trade
for
you?
That's really interesting. That's interesting. Well, I also want to find out then, what are the plans with older as far as any kind of TV, or, I mean, how is that going to work in somehow, or is it up for option? I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
My contract with Younger actually covers older, so Darren Star and Viacom, automatically have the rights, to do whatever they want to do. And I would love it if, at some point it became maybe like a TV movie, or I wouldn't see it becoming a series in itself, but I think it would be a really fun movie for fans. And
Oh yeah, we kept bringing it back together because there's that one more season, right? Is that
yes,
that what we're waiting?
yes. So there's one more season. I've heard that maybe they're going to be shooting it soon, and maybe not till the spring. I mean, those are all rumors that people can read. And
is there any spoilers or any little tidbits you can drop of what happens?
No, I don't know.
Do you know? Do you know?
No,
you don't even see that. You don't see the script. Well, also, I want to tell you guys that before everybody started, I did find out something really fun. Can you tell us what you're working on now as far as with Younger, the new?
Yeah, I'm working on possibly turning Younger into a Broadway musical, which I think is really, really exciting, fun idea. I have some interest from some producers there, and I actually just started taking a class online in lyric writing and book writing for musical theater. And I was telling Jeannie like that I was literally 3 times older than the other students who chat with each other like 24/7 on Facebook, and are really talented. You know, they're so much more experienced and knowledgeable than me. So it's really, the teacher will ask like, well, is there anyone who doesn't know what this means? And I'm always the one who's like, I've heard of that word before. But it's really fun to be doing something totally new. And, you know, I do think that Younger would make an amazing musical. And there are actually quite a few female producers on Broadway. A couple of people who are the daughters of successful producers and who found their way into the business that way, that I believe, you know, this will appeal to them. Because the message to me, ultimately, it's not just about age. It's about wanting to be seen and valued for who you are, not on the basis of an external marker like age or race or sexuality. You know, it's really, to me, very resonant with, you know, something that's in the culture right now that everybody's feeling, you know?
Yeah. And there's a good track record of moving from TV shows and that to theater. I mean, or
Yeah.
Not just TV shows, but just reimagining, I guess, for the theater. And as I said to her, she already has Sutton Foster, who's a big Broadway star. So
and she narrates the audiobook of Older, in case people don't know that. So if you don't feel like reading, I mean, I've been listening to it because I bought a Peloton.
Oh, right. Oh, gosh, yeah.
And it's like, I look at it, it's like this beast in the corner. It's like, let's Peloton. Okay, I will put in my earbuds and listen to Sutton Foster because I want to hear how she does it. And then it makes riding the Peloton actually bearable.
Terrible. Well, I have to say, I did listen to the audio version, and I loved that it was Sutton, and there was Sutton Foster mentioning herself in the audiobook, and but I do that too because I just found myself, I didn't have the time to sit and read, but I'd work out all the time, so it really was. And it was, I know other authors I've asked who've been on our events have asked them if they listen to the audiobooks, and a lot of them say no, they're too scared to. Yeah, but I felt like, I bet for you knew enough about Sutton Foster to know that she would do a great job with it.
Oh yeah, I mean, that was, I was so thrilled when she agreed to do that, and she wrote me a really nice note about how much fun it was for her. And there are all these, you know, little Easter eggs in the book that relate back to the show. And of course, she is a character in the book because from the beginning, I don't think this is a spoiler because it happens pretty early. Yeah. Kelsey, when she options Younger, goes to see Sutton Foster on Broadway and says, I gave Sutton Foster your book and she loves it and she wants to star in the show. And so they're all excited about that, except then Stella with the you know, powerful husband and the money swoops in and steals the goodies, at least for a while.
Yes, so that was interesting. So you have another excerpt to read. If there are any other questions, does anybody, you can raise your hand or just unmute yourself. If you do, sometimes people are shy, but if
you know, I just want to say something because I know there aren't that many people here, but I went when I lived in London in the early 90s. And have any of you read Sue Grafton, who wrote the Alphabet Mysteries? You know, A is for alibi, right? I was like a big fan of hers, and she came to London and she was doing a reading, and I was so excited. And I went to the bookstore and I was the only person there. I was the only person there. And she was already famous in the US at that point, but I guess she wasn't in Britain. And it was just like, and she kind of looked at me and she said, well, since it's just us, let's just talk. What do you want to know? And I wasn't writing novels yet at that point. It was still a dream, and it was just like the most amazing opportunity. I probably blew it, but it was like for me to be able to talk to her, like, well, how did you write your first book? Like, what, how did you sell it? What do you like doing it? Whatever. So I was thinking about that before. So if anybody has anything,
yes, because this.
yes.
If anybody here has some questions, this is your chance to say, wait, what's it like to get it? And what do you have to do to sell it? Or, well, anyway, but maybe you guys you don't have to be shy. We get it. We get you. But look, people are, okay.
I also I went to some magazine lunch and sat next to, I'm going to forget her name. She was a novelist who I really admired, and she'd had a big book, and I said, how did you do it? I mean, my question was like so big, it was just because I just didn't know like how to go from here to here, it just felt like such a long way to go. And I remember I'll remember her name at some point. She said, well, somebody told me, like, you don't have to write the whole book. You only have to write 75 pages. So I thought, all right, I think I can do that. So I wrote 75 pages. And at that time, her agent sold it on the basis of 75 pages. So that was helpful for me, kind of helpful, because it just was, it gave me a goal that felt more manageable than, writing a whole book. And then have you ever had Elizabeth George on?
No.
She's a British mystery writer. I used to read a lot of mysteries, and she has a great book about writing that she just updated. But I really learned to write from her. I took a class.
Wow, I'm gonna write her name in the chat. So anybody, Elizabeth George.
Yes, and she, for a long time, taught a class at Book Passage in Corte Madera in California, which is a bookstore that hosts a lot of events. And I took the class, and that for me was just like my head was spinning around, because I had never taken a class where the teacher, a writing class where the teacher, it was a class in process. So that was like, here's how to do it. Here's what you think of first. Here's what you think of second. Here's what, here is the process. And she broke it all down. And we were there for 3 days. And I had been working on this novel. And after those 3 days, I went home and tore it all apart and started from scratch. And then I sold, and that book is the first book I sold.
The first novel,
First novel, yes.
And tell us the name of that so everybody can get that.
It's called The Man I Should Have Married.
Oh, okay. Did you write this when you were married? Yeah.
Yes, it was like one of the many nails.
Yeah. Believe me, I have a husband who's like, yeah, you can't write about our life anymore. So Evelyn has a question. Where's Evelyn? If you unmute yourself.
Yeah, I think I did. Yes, can you hear me?
There you go.
Hi, Pam. I know you've written a lot of nonfiction, and when I was actually typing this question, you may have started to answer it, but since you've written a lot of nonfiction, I'm curious if you've given any thought to writing a kind of memoir about your own sort of late in life divorce, which certainly sounds like very rich material.
I have thought about that. I was just thinking about it recently. I started writing something called I Didn't Know You Were Allowed to Do That, because I went, when I was in the process of leaving my husband, I tried to rent this apartment in New York. I was going to move to New York. And I found like the perfect apartment. And I was all the way at the final step of renting the apartment. And I was sitting before the, whoever he was, the poobah who got to like, who had to be like the final stamp. And he's like, so why do you want this apartment? And I said, well, I'm getting divorced after 33 years. And he said, I didn't know you were allowed to do that.
That's great. Yeah.
He did not give me the apartment. He did not give me the apartment. I did not get the apartment. Yes. Yeah. He probably was too threatened. Like he thought I was wife or something.
Wow. Yeah. You're like, it was contagious. It was going to contagious his wife.
But, Evelyn, it's funny. I thought about it because last year for Younger, there was a new edition of Younger that came out, and a friend in San Francisco threw this amazing, like, big party for me. And all these women came up to me, like, kind of got really close, and I thought they were going to ask me something about, how do you become a writer? And I'm like, how'd you do it? And it's not like, how'd you write the novel? It was like, how'd you get out and start your life again?
They were wannabes, in other words.
Yeah.
A lot of wannabes.
Well, that is, yes. So that's telling you something, like where the interest is. There is, and I've always found that there's not enough great protagonists at our age. But I mean, there are more and more. Olive Kittredge, and there's more and more. And I think at this age we have such interesting lives. We have just all the experiences we've had and all the things we've gone through and survived that makes it so interesting. But it seems like people don't really have much care, but who probably buys more books than anyone? Don't you think of women our age? Like, duh. And you did say something about, are you working on another, besides writing a musical, are you working on something else? Another novel?
Yeah, I've been working on a new novel that I'm really excited about, called The Matriarch, about a woman who started a business and is the head of a big sprawling family, and they all live together on a compound in Montecito with, Harry and Meghan and Oprah. And what happens, she runs her business with her oldest son, and her oldest son dies. And what happens when she is kind of has to take control again by herself of her family and her business.
Oh, so in what stage is that? When can we look for that?
Well, I'm not sure when you can look for it. I'm just about 80 pages into writing it. So
oh, okay. So
we'll see.
So are you ducking your head at this point and using COVID time to get a lot of work done on that?
Yeah, I mean, as you say, I do have this baby name expert side of my life where I run this website. And so the weekends are the time when I do write during the week as well, but on the weekends I'm not interrupted at all. So I just like kind of go into this creative zone and get a lot done on the weekends. Yeah. I mean, I'm a lucky writer because I really love to write. So my favorite thing is to be sitting alone with my laptop, just spinning out a story.
Oh, gosh. So yeah, that's great, because for some of us, it's real effort.
Well, have you ever written a novel or tried?
I've written a memoir about starting a lavender farm in Texas. So that's part of my backstory, is that I was a lavender farmer. So anyway, but Brenda has a question. If you want to unmute yourself, Brenda.
Hey, Brenda.
Hi. So I am listening to you tell your stories, and I'm just curious if you've always had ideas in your head that you knew you just needed to get down on paper, and then you started talking about your new novel. And I think my writing has been limited to the Julia Cameron books of, The Artist's Way and It's Never Too Late to Begin Again. And it's taught me to have a discipline and a morning routine, which I love. And I've stuck with it for a few years, but I'm always fascinated with people who, like, I don't have ideas in my head. I don't just have to get things on paper. It's a beautiful discipline that helps me organize my day. and it's centered, it's sort of meditative. So I'm just curious about your process and what that means for you.
Yeah, I've done that on and off too, and I find it really useful too. And not necessarily for something I'm working on, but to organize my day and think about where I am and what I want. I guess I would say that I think I get a lot more ideas now that I have more idea. I think that it kind of becomes a way of looking at the world or hearing things. I feel like this sounds very LA and mystical, but I feel like ideas are all around, and if you're attuned to them, you sort of can hear them. I've heard Elizabeth Gilbert talk about this thing of like that this universe of ideas, and that sometimes two people get the same idea at the same time. So I think that it's something that you can develop. Jeannie, I would like to teach this writing class. That would be a distilled version of the Elizabeth George class, because the first step in her process is about the idea, and you don't really need a big idea, because developing it is not about the idea. Younger was a big idea, but those are very few and far between. My whole career, I could count them on one hand. And more like, I might have an idea like, I like to write about a woman who's, the head of her family, like that. So that's a pretty vague little idea. And from there, you really build out the world of, like, okay, if you're going to write about a woman who's the head of the family, you list the characters you're going to need. Okay, there's the woman, there are her kid, the people in her family, whoever they're going to be. Does she have a husband or a lover? And then you create those people, and then you create the setting, and then you think about things like theme, so that you spend a lot of time imagining the particulars of this world, and so your idea grows along with that. And more ideas come to you along with that. So you don't need to have that amazing idea to start. You just, I started reading, I'm looking around to see if it's here, because it's always been by me lately. There's a book called The 90-Day Novel by someone named Alan Watt. And I'm in a group of writers who we read books and discuss them in the context of our own writing. It's a really amazing group. And we alternate weeks of talking about books that we're reading with weeks when we talk about craft. And one of the members of this group, who's a very literary writer, is teaching in her MFA program. She's using this book, 90-Day Novel, which kind of feels like a cheesy formulaic, but it really is not. And we were all like, we probably written, 50 novels between us. And we were all like, oh my God, this book is so amazing, because it's like very accessible for a beginner, but it's also very provocative if you've done it a lot. He has tons, and he's like, you spend the first 30 days of the 90 days just doing all this exploration, which is very much like the Elizabeth George thing. And like one of his first exercises is, my book is about, and then you start writing. So that's supposed to be 5 minutes. And I did that a few weeks ago, and like 5 hours later, I was still writing. Because
Wow.
I was like, my book is about this, the Matriarch. I thought I knew what it was about, but my book is about, I started thinking about getting to the point in your life where you feel like, can I put myself first? When you have a big family, when you have can I put myself first? Do I want to put myself first? What do I lose by putting myself first? Anyway, super, super, super recommend that book. And I think that it kind of demystifies the whole idea thing, and makes it very approachable, and it's very provocative to the imagination.
Oh my gosh. Well, I think you besides selling your own book, you sell 90-day novel. That's and Pam, I did talk to Pam about doing a writing workshop, and this is a busy time with her promoting her own book, but maybe in the spring we can get you to do
definitely.
Because, and I'll just do one quick, it's not Pam, but we have some other really great writers. I just put a link in there. We have Natalie Serber coming up, Meredith Moran. Meredith is there in LA with you.
Yeah, she's a friend of mine.
Yeah, so we have some other writing workshops coming up. So if you're a writer or interested in that, but then we will keep you posted if I can get Pam to do one next spring for.
Yeah, that'd be perfect. In fact, Meredith is doing a workshop about a group, and she and I are in a group together, and it's about a group that's kind of an unconventional writing group that some of you might be interested in, because it's a very productive way to do a writing group.
Yeah, yes. So that's her theme is to talk about how to build a writing group, so you have that constant learning and growing, even after, beyond taking classes or whatever, but you have that great feedback and stuff.
And the kind of group that can include people who are writing different kinds of things at different levels, because it's not the workshop model where everybody's reading and critiquing each other's work. It's different. I mean, I was in a group with Christina like this, and that's how I went in there and said, I don't know, like, how am I going to make this woman younger if I don't have magic? So that's the kind of thing we take to the group,
kind of like bouncing some ideas off of really smart people who understand the challenges and what you have to accomplish to make it successful. That's really
cool. And our group now is, women of different ages. There's a TV writer in the group. There's a nonfiction writer, really doing very different things. But in some ways, the TV writer came and said, I need to work out the plot of this pilot. Can you all brainstorm with me? That was super fun. I love that.
Oh my God, yes, that's so cool. Well, we could keep talking to you. I know we've gone over, but that's always fun because it means we're having a good time. But so everybody, the book is older, and I highly recommend it. I just finished it and just love your writing, Pam. It's so fun, and like I said, it's very much, the exchanges are so much like what you find when you're with your girlfriends. So that makes it especially a treat to read, especially if you can't see your girlfriends right now. And I will email you with some follow up with the link for the book if you haven't gotten it or anything like that. So everybody, I'm going to unmute you, and so we can all applaud. If I can just find the unmute. All of a sudden I'm like, I can't find the unmute. Anyway, there you are. Unmute.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. It was really nice to meet everybody.
Thank you so much, Pam. We'll definitely be in touch. Thanks all of you for coming.
Thank you.
Best of luck.
Bye-bye.